Money is one of the most misunderstood elements of human life. People chase it endlessly, work for it tirelessly, and worry about it constantly. Yet very few understand that money is not just a piece of paper or a number on a screen. It is a spiritual force, an energetic expression that flows where it is spiritually permitted. Florence Scovel Shinn, a mystic of the early 20th century, understood and taught this clearly. She insisted that money is not simply earned by hard work or intense hustle, it is commanded by spiritual alignment, and at the core of that alignment are divine laws. These laws are always operating, whether we are aware of them or not. Understanding and cooperating with them allows us to move from a mindset of survival into a reality of abundance. To begin, we must break free from the conditioning that tells us money is only available to the privileged, the highly educated, or the obsessively driven. That belief has kept billions stuck in cycles of lack and struggle. Divine law does not care about your background, your degree, or your current job title. Divine law responds to consciousness, belief, and vibration. It is impersonal, just like gravity. When you cooperate with spiritual principles, you move into flow. When you resist them or remain unaware of them, you create blockages and shortages in your life, no matter how hard you try. This is where Florence Scovel Shinn's brilliance comes into play. She taught that your circumstances are not your destiny. They are a reflection of your beliefs and your alignment. Most people operate in the belief that more hours, more effort, and more sacrifice are the only roads to wealth. Yet how many people work themselves to exhaustion and remain in debt? How many are constantly busy, but still financially stressed? The answer is, too many. And that's because physical work without spiritual alignment leads to frustration, not abundance. When you understand that money responds to divine law, you begin to shift your mindset. Instead of asking, "How can I get more money?" you begin asking, "How can I align with the law that governs prosperity?" The former question keeps you chasing. The latter helps you attract, because money flows to order, to harmony, to belief, and to expectation. When you expect good, you prepare for it. When you believe you are divinely supported, you walk differently. You speak differently. And most importantly, you vibrate differently, and the universe responds. Florence said, "Man must prepare for the thing he has asked for, when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight." This means that your faith, your spiritual expectancy, is what opens the gates to financial blessing. Many people pray for money while simultaneously worrying about how it will come. That cancels the effect. Divine law works only where there is spiritual certainty. That certainty becomes a magnet. It draws circumstances, opportunities, and even people who carry the answers you've been seeking. When money is seen as divine substance, rather than a limited, hard-to-get resource, the energy around it shifts. You stop trying to control it. You stop fearing it. And instead, you begin to cooperate with it. You begin to speak about it with respect and love, not fear and resentment, and that subtle change begins to reorder your external world. Suddenly, new streams of income open, creative ideas arrive, solutions appear, not by chance, but because you finally stepped into the divine order that governs all things, including money. People often think spiritual laws are vague or unrealistic, but that's only because we've been taught to trust only what we can see. Divine law, however, is unseen but not ineffective. Just as electricity is invisible but powers entire cities, divine law is intangible, yet it powers your results. When you recognize that and begin working with the law instead of against it, you no longer beg for money. You no longer panic about bills. You no longer settle for less. Because you know, deep in your soul, that the same intelligence that created the universe is guiding your supply. Florence often spoke of money not coming from people, jobs, or governments, but from divine source. People and jobs are simply channels, not the source itself. This is a powerful realization. Because when one channel dries up, You don't fall into despair. You simply look for the next channel that the divine is ready to use. You stay open. You stay expectant. You keep your faith strong and your words aligned with truth. That's how you command money to appear, not through fear, but through faith in divine order. So when people say, money is hard to get, or I never have enough, they are unknowingly invoking the wrong law. They are affirming scarcity, and what you affirm becomes your reality. But when you affirm, money is always circulating in my life, I am divinely provided for, you are speaking into the realm of truth. You are cooperating with the law, and the law must respond. In conclusion, money is not commanded by effort alone. It is commanded by spiritual awareness. It is drawn into your life when your thoughts, emotions, and words align with divine truth. Work is not the enemy, but work without spiritual law is incomplete. The key is alignment. And once you're aligned, things shift. Money comes not from strain, but from a deeper, divine certainty that you are supported, supplied, and favored beyond measure. When you live in that consciousness, money doesn't just arrive, it obeys. Would you like the remaining 6 keynotes expanded in the same way? You said, expend 2 keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said you said, expend 2 keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said certainly. Below is a 900-word expansion of the second keynote from 3 Divine Laws That Command Money to Appear, focusing on the law of substitution, with no subheadings and a strong conclusion. Your reality is never created outside of you first. It is always born from within, in your thoughts, your feelings, your self-image. Everything you experience, including your financial situation, is a reflection of what's going on in your inner world. This is where the law of substitution becomes so powerful. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized again and again that you must deliberately replace fear with faith, lack with abundance, and doubt with confidence. This law teaches us that no 2 thoughts can occupy the same space at the same time. You cannot hold a vision of success and simultaneously entertain fear of failure. You must choose what occupies your mental screen, and what you choose determines your financial condition. When you constantly focus on your bills, your debts, your insufficient income, or how expensive everything is, you're imprinting lack into your subconscious. And what is impressed in the subconscious must express in your outer world. You cannot think poor and live rich. The law is precise. The law of substitution says you must take hold of those fearful, limiting, and anxious thoughts, and replace them with ideas rooted in truth, divine abundance, and expectancy. You don't deny reality, you override it. You don't pretend the bill doesn't exist. You affirm that the divine source that created the universe is also handling this situation with perfect order. Florence Scovel Shinn said, man can only be what he sees himself to be, and only attain what he sees himself attaining. This isn't poetic fluff. This is metaphysical law. Your internal picture of yourself dictates the scope of your external results. If deep inside, you see yourself as someone who always struggles, always just gets by, or isn't lucky with money, then life will reflect exactly that. But if you begin to substitute that old self-image with a new one, someone who is supported, provided for, guided by divine intelligence, then the outer world must adjust to that new frequency. The inner image leads, the outer world follows. Many people misunderstand the law of substitution. They think they can just say a few positive words in the morning, and then continue worrying for the rest of the day. That's not how it works. Substitution isn't a surface technique. It's a complete mental shift. It requires vigilance. You must become the gatekeeper of your mind, constantly asking, is this thought supporting my divine wealth or sabotaging it? If the answer reveals a limiting belief, then it's time to substitute. You don't argue with the old thought, you replace it. With practice, this becomes easier, even automatic. For example, when the fear of not having enough rises up, and it will, instead of giving it life, you gently substitute it with a truth-based affirmation. You might say, God is the source of my supply. Abundance is flowing to me now. That affirmation, repeated with faith, not only interrupts the pattern of fear, but also plants a new seed of prosperity. Do this often enough, and your dominant thought becomes one of certainty instead of anxiety. And when certainty takes root, manifestation becomes inevitable. Your subconscious mind is a powerful recording device. It does not question or analyze. It accepts. That's why substitution is necessary. You cannot leave your mind unguarded, especially when it comes to finances. Every advertisement, news headline, or casual conversation about financial doom is feeding the mind with images of limitation. If you're not intentionally substituting those messages with ones that align with your divine inheritance, then you are unconsciously reinforcing lack. To command money to appear, your dominant mental atmosphere must reflect wealth, not want. Another important aspect of the law of substitution is that you must emotionally engage with the new thought. It's not enough to just say, I am wealthy, without feeling it. You must begin to live from that feeling, even before the money shows up. This is where most people struggle. They want to wait for proof before they believe. But the law of substitution works the other way around. You believe first, then you receive. Florence taught that man must act as if he already possesses what he has asked for. That's the secret. You carry yourself, think, and feel as the prosperous version of yourself, and then the universe must conform to that vision. This law is deeply empowering because it puts the power back in your hands. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. You get to decide what thoughts run your life. If a negative one shows up, don't wrestle with it. Replace it. If a voice says, you'll never be rich, calmly answer, I am rich now. Riches belong to me by divine right. You don't argue with fear. You override it with truth. So many people are trapped in financial bondage simply because they've never learned to substitute their thinking. They've accepted every worry, every scarcity message, every fear-based belief as if it were truth. But once you know the law of substitution, you are no longer helpless. You are powerful. Every time you choose faith over fear, abundance over anxiety, trust over doubt, you are commanding money to appear, not through magic, but through alignment. In conclusion, the law of substitution is not just a mental exercise, it's a spiritual discipline. It trains your mind to align with your highest truth, that you are already provided for, already supported, already connected to an infinite source of supply. When your inner vision reflects prosperity, your outer life must match it. There is no exception. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about choosing your response. Every moment is a choice: lack or abundance, fear or faith. And every time you choose to substitute the former with the latter, you move one step closer to commanding money to appear, effortlessly and divinely. Would you like the third keynote expanded next? You said, expend 3 keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said certainly. Here's a 900-word expansion of the third keynote from Divine Laws That Command Money to Appear, focused on the law of the spoken word, with no subheadings and a clear conclusion. Words are not just sounds. They are containers of power, transmitters of energy, and the builders of your world. Florence Scovel Shinn boldly declared, your word is your wand. And she meant it quite literally. She understood a truth most people overlook. The words you speak not only reflect your beliefs, they shape them. They send out vibrations that interact with the invisible spiritual laws governing your life. If you want to command money to appear, you must first command your words to align with abundance. Nothing changes in your bank account until something changes in your speech. It's easy to dismiss language as harmless habit. Most people speak carelessly, unaware that their financial conditions are being sculpted, day by what they repeatedly affirm. When you constantly say things like, "I can't afford it," "money never stays with me," or "everything is getting so expensive," you're not just expressing frustration. You are broadcasting a signal. And that signal attracts corresponding circumstances. The law of the spoken word doesn't take into account whether your statements are jokes, venting, or sarcasm. It simply receives them as instructions. There is divine power in speech because your voice is an extension of your creative force. When you speak, you are giving shape to energy. You are declaring what you believe to be true, and the universe rearranges itself to match that truth. Florence often emphasized that you should never talk about lack, illness, or defeat, because doing so gives those things strength. If you want money to appear, you must speak as if money already surrounds you. You must talk from the frequency of prosperity, not from the frequency of fear. This is not about denying reality or pretending that problems don't exist. It's about choosing which reality you want to reinforce. The spoken word has the power to shift atmospheres and open invisible doors. When you affirm, "Unexpected money is flowing to me now, under grace and in perfect ways," you are not begging. You are authorizing. You are issuing a spiritual command that goes out into the ethers and begins gathering the elements required to fulfill it. If you repeat this declaration consistently and with emotion, the world around you begins to change. The law of the spoken word also requires discipline. It's not a matter of saying a positive affirmation once and then falling back into habitual complaint. You must train your speech like an athlete trains their body, with conscious effort and repetition. Your words must become so rooted in truth that even under pressure, you refuse to speak lack. Florence Scovel warned that many people cancel their prayers by immediately talking in the opposite direction. They affirm abundance in the morning, then say, "I'm broke," by lunchtime. That inconsistency sends mixed signals to the universe, and as a result, nothing moves. Mastery of the spoken word also involves clarity. You must know what you're calling in. Vague words bring vague results. If you say, "I want more money," and then find a coin on the sidewalk, your request has technically been answered. But when you speak with precision, "I am receiving 100,000 rupees through unexpected channels," easily and without strain, you give the universe something clear to respond to. Words clarify intention, and intention sets direction. More than anything, your spoken word must carry belief. Empty words, spoken with doubt, carry no creative weight, but words spoken with conviction, even quiet conviction, become forces of transformation. When you say, "My income is increasing every month," while feeling joy and certainty, the vibration of that statement begins to reshape your financial reality. The key is not to make your affirmation sound perfect, but to make it feel true. Another essential aspect of this law is the emotional tone behind your words. Emotion is fuel. It gives your words wings. A fearful affirmation like, "I hope money comes before rent is due," carries the energy of desperation, not abundance. But a confident declaration like, "Divine supply is never late, all my needs are met now," carries calm assurance, which the universe responds to. Florence often taught that spoken words backed by faith and gratitude carry the highest creative power. So don't just say your affirmations, feel them, live inside the energy they create. There is a spiritual certainty that begins to develop the more you practice this. At first, speaking words of wealth may feel awkward or even false, especially if your outer reality doesn't yet match. But keep going. Keep speaking. You're not lying, you're creating. You're planting new seeds. And just as a farmer doesn't question whether the seed will grow, you must trust that your spoken words are working. Even if you can't see the roots forming yet, it's also worth noting that silence can be just as powerful as speech. Sometimes, Choosing not to speak fear is as potent as choosing to speak faith. If you're in a situation where everyone is complaining about money, you don't need to argue. Just rise above it. Say nothing if you must, but do not join in the energy of limitation. Hold your vibration. Protect your words. What you don't say can be as important as what you do say. In conclusion, the law of the spoken word is a divine mechanism of creation. When you understand that your words are not just expressions, but declarations of reality, you become much more intentional. Every sentence becomes a spell, either for wealth or for worry. Every word becomes a brick, either building your abundance or your limitation. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that when your words align with divine truth, the gates of abundance swing open. Speak what you want, not what you fear. Declare wealth. Command provision. And as surely as day follows night, the universe will respond, not with hesitation, but with the full force of divine law. Would you like the fourth keynote expanded next? You said, expend 4 keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said absolutely. Here's a 900-word expansion of the 4th keynote from 3 Divine Laws That Command Money to Appear, focusing on the law of non-resistance, with no subheadings and a clear conclusion. The more you resist something, the more it persists. That is the essence of the law of non-resistance, a powerful spiritual truth that Florence Scovel Shinn taught with unwavering conviction. When it comes to money, this law can either work for you or against you, depending on your level of awareness. Most people resist money without realizing it. They resist it through fear, through worry, through judgment, and even through hatred, and then they wonder why it stays away. The truth is, whatever you push against, emotionally, mentally, or energetically, pushes back. Resistance creates friction. Friction blocks flow, and where there is no flow, there is no increase. Money, like everything else, is energy. It flows freely and naturally to those who are open to receiving it without tension, guilt, or struggle. But the moment you attach fear to it, fear of not having enough, fear of losing it, or fear of what others will think if you have too much, you begin to resist it. That resistance acts as a wall, a spiritual blockade. You might be working hard, doing everything right on the surface, but if deep down you're resisting the idea of wealth or the people who have it, you are cutting yourself off from the very thing you claim to desire. Florence said, "What man resists, persists." This isn't just a clever phrase, it is metaphysical law. When you fight against a condition, whether it's poverty, bills, or debt, you give it more energy. You feed it with your attention and emotion, and what you feed grows. That's why complaining about money problems never solves them. Worrying about bills never makes them go away. Judging the wealthy never attracts wealth. All of these actions are subtle forms of resistance, and they keep you stuck in a cycle of financial frustration. To operate in alignment with the law of non-resistance, you must learn to let go. You must release your tight grip on how money should come, when it should come, and from where. You must stop micromanaging the universe. This doesn't mean you stop taking action or being responsible. It means you stop obsessing. It means you surrender the outcome while remaining confident in the supply. You trust that the same divine intelligence that created the universe can also handle your financial situation with precision and perfection. One of the most common forms of resistance is fear. Fear of not having enough. Fear contracts energy. It closes the heart and the mind. It pulls your vibration downward and sends a message to the universe that you do not trust its provision. That's a powerful signal, and the universe always reflects it back. But when you relax, when you breathe, when you choose peace over panic, you open the channel. You allow money to reach you in unexpected and effortless ways. Another form of resistance is resentment, especially toward those who are wealthy. So many people unconsciously block their own prosperity by judging others who have it. They say things like, rich people are greedy, or they must have cheated their way to the top. These thoughts may feel harmless, even justified, but they are poison to your own abundance. You cannot receive what you secretly resent. You cannot become what you inwardly condemn. If you want money to appear, you must bless it wherever you see it. Celebrate wealth in others. Rejoice in their success. That energy of celebration is magnetic. It draws more to you. Control is another major form of resistance. When you try to force outcomes, when you obsess over timelines, when you insist that money must show up in a specific way, you are resisting the natural intelligence of the universe. You are saying, in effect, that you know better than divine order. That kind of energy only delays the manifestation. The moment you let go, truly let go, you step into flow. And flow is the environment in which money appears. The law of non-resistance also asks you to stop resisting your present circumstances. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means power. When you accept where you are without judgment, you stop leaking energy through frustration. You become centered. And from that center you can make powerful, aligned choices. Resistance keeps you in reaction mode. Acceptance puts you back in creation mode. You're no longer battling life. You're partnering with it. Florence taught that to receive more, you must relax more. This may sound counterintuitive, especially in a world that worships hustle and glorifies stress. But spiritual law doesn't respond to effort, it responds to alignment. And alignment requires ease, not tension. Think of money as a river. It flows naturally, effortlessly. But the moment you build a dam of fear, judgment, or control, you interrupt that flow. Remove the dam, and the water rushes in. To practice the law of non-resistance, begin each day with a simple declaration. I release all tension around money. I trust in divine supply. I allow abundance to flow to me now. Let this be more than words. Let it become your way of being. When challenges arise, don't fight them. Bless them. Learn from them. Move through them with grace. Resistance adds weight to your problems. Surrender lightens the load. In conclusion, the law of non-resistance is not about giving up. It's about letting go. Letting go of fear. Letting go of judgment. Letting go of the need to control. It is the art of surrendering your financial situation to a higher power while holding the vibration of trust and abundance. When you do this, money no longer feels distant. It no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes what it was always meant to be. A flowing, divine substance that supports your life, honors your purpose, and arrives exactly when you need it. Resistance repels. Surrender attracts. When you stop fighting and start allowing, you'll find that money doesn't need to be chased. It simply needs to be received. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 5 on gratitude, activating all 3 laws? You said, expend 5 Keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said certainly. Here is a 900-word expansion of the 5th Keynote from 3 Divine Laws that command money to appear. Focusing on the truth that gratitude activates all 3 divine laws instantly, with no subheadings and a strong conclusion. Gratitude is far more than a pleasant feeling or a polite response to kindness. It is a spiritual force, a creative energy that bridges the gap between the invisible and the visible. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized again and again that gratitude is not something to be reserved for after a blessing has arrived. It is the very vibration that calls the blessing forth. If you wish to command money to appear, you must understand that gratitude is not an accessory to manifestation. It is the engine behind it. Gratitude activates the law of substitution, the law of the spoken word, and the law of non-resistance simultaneously. It is the shortcut, the secret, the spiritual fast track to abundance. When you begin to feel grateful for what you have, no matter how small it may seem, you immediately change your frequency. You shift out of lack, worry, and fear, and into alignment with divine supply. That shift, though subtle, is powerful. Gratitude substitutes fear with faith. It says to the universe, I trust that more is on the way. I know that I am supported. I celebrate what is, and I welcome what is coming. In that one emotional state, you override years of doubt and scarcity. You begin to feel prosperous, and according to divine law, what you feel, you magnetize. Most people make the mistake of waiting until their external situation changes before they allow themselves to feel grateful. They think, I'll be grateful when the money comes. Or, I'll feel better once I get out of this financial mess. But that's not how it works. That's like waiting for the fireplace to produce heat before adding wood. The fire of manifestation is ignited by gratitude. It must come first. It must be practiced now, in the midst of whatever you are facing. The moment you give thanks for what you already have, even if it's just enough for today, you send a message to the universe that says, I am ready for more. A gratitude also elevates your spoken word. Florence taught that every word carries vibration, and when you speak words of gratitude, their power multiplies. Saying, thank you, with genuine feeling is a form of affirmation. It is a declaration of sufficiency, of trust, and of expectation. When you say, thank you, God, for the money that's on its way, or, I'm so grateful for the unexpected blessings flowing to me now, you are not only affirming, you are sealing that affirmation with spiritual approval. You are confirming that you already believe the blessing is real, even if it hasn't yet shown up. That belief is magnetic. The universe responds to it with clarity and speed. Gratitude also neutralizes resistance. It is impossible to be tense, afraid, or anxious while being truly thankful. When your heart is filled with appreciation, your energy softens. You no longer cling, grasp, or control. You release, you trust, and you allow. That release is what opens the channels. That softness is what removes the energetic blocks. You can't receive with a clenched fist. Gratitude helps you open your hand and your heart to receive freely. It turns your entire being into a receptive vessel for divine substance to pour into. Florence often taught that when faced with difficulty, instead of resisting or complaining, you should immediately give thanks. Thank the situation for what it's teaching you. Thank the delay for the unseen protection it might be offering. Thank the lack for revealing where your thoughts and words need adjustment. That simple act of thanksgiving removes bitterness, clears resentment, and replaces confusion with clarity. It changes the vibration of the experience, and that change in vibration changes the outcome. There is also great creative power in advanced gratitude, the kind of gratitude you give before the manifestation. This kind of gratitude says, even though I don't see it yet, I know it's on the way. I trust the divine process. That trust becomes a magnet for the manifestation. It pulls it closer. It confirms your alignment with the laws of abundance. Florence called this acting as if, and it's one of the greatest expressions of faith. You begin to act, speak, and feel as if the money has already arrived, and in doing so you command it into existence. Gratitude is not just about words or thoughts. It's about energy. It's about feeling. A gratitude list written with a heavy heart won't create much. But a single sentence spoken with deep appreciation can shift everything. When you feel grateful, even without physical evidence, you step into the vibration of the very thing you desire. You merge with it, you embody it, and by law, it must move toward you. Many people underestimate the simplicity of gratitude. They think it's too basic to change anything. But spiritual power is often hidden in the simple. The most advanced truths are not complicated, they are practiced. Gratitude is simple, but its effects are monumental. It increases what you have, attracts what you desire, and dissolves what you fear. It is the only emotional state that simultaneously honors the present, welcomes the future, and heals the past. In conclusion, if you want to activate the divine laws that command money to appear, start with gratitude. Gratitude is the ignition switch for abundance. It replaces fear with trust, turns spoken words into spiritual decrees and dissolves the blocks caused by resistance. The moment you feel grateful, truly and deeply, you align with the flow of divine supply. You stop chasing money and begin attracting it. You stop waiting for proof and start creating it. Gratitude changes the lens through which you see life, and in doing so, it changes life itself. Begin now. Look around. Find one thing, anything, to be thankful for, then another. Let that energy build until it overflows. That overflow is where the miracle happens. That overflow is where the money begins to appear. Would you like to continue with the 6th keynote on poverty as a mental condition? You said, expend 6 keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said certainly. Here is a 900-word expansion of the 6th keynote from 3 divine laws that command money to appear. Focusing on the truth that poverty is a mental condition, not a financial one, with no subheadings and a strong conclusion. Poverty does not begin in the wallet. It begins in the mind. It is not the absence of money, but the presence of limiting beliefs. This is one of the boldest and most liberating teachings Florence Scovel Shinn ever offered. She didn't pity those in lack. She empowered them. She taught that your external circumstances are simply the outpicturing of your internal state. Your finances mirror your consciousness. Change your mind, and your money must follow. Poverty, then, is not just about economics. It is a state of inner belief, of spiritual forgetfulness, of disconnection from the divine source of abundance. Most people think they're poor because of their job, their upbringing, the economy, or some unlucky twist of fate. But those are only surface-level explanations. The root cause goes deeper. Somewhere, a belief was formed. I am not enough. Money is hard to get. There's never enough to go around. Or, people like me don't become wealthy. These beliefs become a silent script running the show. They influence every financial decision, every expectation, and every reaction. Over time, they shape your experience, not because they are true, but because they are believed. Florence Scovel Shinn knew that the subconscious mind is obedient. It doesn't question. It accepts and produces whatever it is fed repeatedly. If you were told growing up that rich people are greedy, or that money is the root of all evil, or that life is a constant struggle, those words likely sank deep into your subconscious. And unless those ideas are challenged and replaced, they continue to bear fruit, in the form of limited income, constant bills, missed opportunities, and a general sense of financial struggle. This is why so many people, despite working long hours or earning decent salaries, still live paycheck to paycheck. The issue isn't the money, it's the consciousness. It's the self-image that says, this is just how life is for people like me. But that is a lie. It is a lie repeated so often by so many that it has become culturally accepted. But divine law does not bend to culture. It responds to truth. And the truth is, you are not meant to live in lack. You were not created to scrape by. You were not designed for financial struggle. You are a divine being, connected to an infinite source of supply. And when you recognize that, your life begins to reflect it. Poverty consciousness is sneaky. It shows up in how you think about bills, how you feel when someone else succeeds, how you react to the idea of raising your standards. It tells you that wealth is for others, not for you. It tells you to shrink your dreams to fit your current bank balance. It convinces you to settle, but none of this is truth. These are inherited patterns, echoes of collective fear and ancestral survival mode. You are not required to carry them forward. The beautiful thing is that because poverty is a mental condition, it can be healed mentally. The moment you change your beliefs, your life begins to rearrange. The moment you stop identifying as poor, broke, or just getting by, and start affirming your divine right to wealth, you activate new possibilities. The shift may not be immediate, but it will be inevitable. Like seeds planted in new soil, your thoughts will begin to produce new results, not because the world changed, but because you did. Florence often said that man must become what he seeks. If you want to experience wealth, you must first think like someone who is wealthy. You must feel like someone who is supported. You must walk through life knowing that your supply comes not from a paycheck, but from divine substance that never runs out. That mental shift rewires your vibration. And when your vibration changes, your experiences follow suit. Opportunities appear, doors open, creative ideas come, money flows in ways that surprise you. But this shift requires vigilance. You must become aware of the inner dialogue that keeps you in limitation. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I can't afford it," pause. Replace it with, "Divine supply is meeting this need." Every time you feel unworthy of more, interrupt that pattern. Say, "I am worthy of wealth. I was created for more than survival." These small shifts, repeated consistently, begin to reprogram the subconscious. They lift you out of poverty consciousness and into prosperity awareness. It's also important to surround yourself with wealth consciousness. Read books, listen to teachings, and spend time with people who believe in abundance. The energy of others influences you more than you realize. If everyone around you speaks the language of lack, it will be difficult to rise above it. But if you immerse yourself in environments where wealth is seen as normal, as spiritual, as your birthright, then you begin to normalize it too. Wealth stops feeling far away, it starts to feel natural. Another key aspect is forgiveness. Forgive yourself for past financial mistakes. Forgive your parents or teachers who unknowingly passed down limiting beliefs. Forgive the times you felt powerless. That forgiveness is a spiritual detox. It clears the inner space for new beliefs to take root. Holding on to guilt or resentment only keeps you tethered to old identities. Let them go. Declare that you are starting fresh, that today is a new day, governed not by past patterns but by divine law. In conclusion, poverty is not your destiny. It is not your identity. It is not a sentence you must serve. It is a mental program that can be rewritten. The moment you stop accepting it as just the way it is, and start declaring, "I am divinely supported, richly blessed, and abundantly supplied," you begin to activate a new reality. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't teach financial theory, she taught spiritual law, and that law says your outer world must reflect your inner world. So if you want to change your finances, change your mind. Plant new thoughts, speak new words, feel new emotions, and watch as your life transforms from lack to overflow. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be poor. You were meant to be powerful. And now is the time to claim it. Would you like to move on to the final 7th keynote next? You said, expend 7 keynote without any subheading with conclusion on 900 words. ChatGPT said certainly. Here's the 900-word expansion of the 7th keynote from 3 Divine Laws That Command Money to Appear. Written without subheadings and with a strong conclusion, one of the most powerful spiritual laws Florence Scovel Shinn ever taught is this: what you consistently speak, you eventually live. Words are not mere sounds, they are commands. They are spiritual tools that mold the unseen into the seen, the invisible into the tangible. If you want money to appear, if you want wealth to flow, you must begin by transforming your language. Because your words shape your world, not occasionally, but constantly. There is no neutral speech. You are either speaking abundance or speaking limitation. You are either affirming divine supply or reinforcing lack. And every word, whether casual or intentional, returns to you in form. Florence emphasized again and again that the spoken word holds vibrational power. When you declare something aloud, you give it spiritual energy. You give it permission to manifest. You create momentum in the unseen realm. But most people are unaware of what they're saying all day long. They speak about what they can't afford, about what's going wrong, about what they fear, and then wonder why nothing improves. But the law is exact. Whatever is affirmed, especially with feeling, begins to take form. The universe listens to your words and aligns with your belief. Not your wish, your belief. And belief is most clearly revealed in what you say. When someone says, "I'm always broke," they aren't just describing their reality. They're repeating a command. The same is true when they say things like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "I can't catch a break," or "I never get ahead." These aren't harmless phrases. They are affirmations of poverty. Repetition turns them into truth in the subconscious mind. And once embedded there, the mind begins to filter life through that belief. Opportunities are missed. Financial doors stay closed. All because of words that were never challenged. The good news is, the opposite is just as true. When you begin to speak words of truth, of abundance, of faith, even when your circumstances haven't yet changed, you activate a new law. You begin to plant spiritual seeds that eventually bear financial fruit. Florence said, "Your word is your wand." That's not poetic language, that's spiritual fact. Your words direct divine substance. They guide your experiences. And when you start saying, "Everything I need is now appearing," or "Money flows to me freely and unexpectedly," or "I am divinely guided in all financial matters," your world starts to shift. Not because of magic, but because you finally started working with the law. It's important to note that this isn't about blind optimism or pretending problems don't exist. It's about choosing truth over appearance. It's about understanding that the spiritual realm is more real and more powerful than any temporary condition. When you say, "I am wealthy," you're not denying your current bank balance. You're declaring a higher truth, one that begins to reshape your physical experience. Because the subconscious mind doesn't argue, it simply accepts, and when it hears new, bold, abundant language consistently, it begins to rewire your perception. You start noticing new ideas. You attract different people. You think differently. You act differently. And the results begin to match your words. Many people give up too quickly. They say an affirmation once or twice and, seeing no immediate change, they stop. But that's like planting a seed and digging it up the next morning to check if it sprouted. Spiritual law requires consistency, repetition, faith. When you speak the truth every day, especially in the face of contrary evidence, you prove to the universe that you're serious, that you trust the process. And in return, the universe responds with opportunity, provision, and unexpected financial blessings. Florence warned against idle words. Complaining about money, gossiping about wealth, or speaking ill of prosperous people only blocks your own flow. You cannot resent wealth and receive it at the same time. You cannot curse money with your mouth and expect it to bless you. Your words must be pure, aligned, and intentional. Speak well of others' success. Speak gratitude for what you already have. Speak expectation for what's coming. This isn't just spiritual hygiene. It's a magnet for miracles. And it's not only what you say out loud. Your inner dialogue matters just as much. If your thoughts are fearful, but your mouth says affirmations, you're sending mixed signals. So speak affirmations not just to change your outer results, but to change your inner state. Say them until you feel them. Say them until they become your natural response. Eventually, what once felt like a lie will begin to feel like truth, because your consciousness will have expanded to match your words. Another important practice Florence taught was the power of speaking in advance. Instead of waiting for evidence, declare it ahead of time. Say, "This debt is already cleared," even while you're making the payments. Say, "New channels of income are opening for me now," even when you don't yet see them. This forward-looking faith is what activates divine law. It tells the universe that you are ready, willing, and aligned. That kind of spiritual confidence never goes unrewarded. In conclusion, your words are the bridge between your current reality and your desired wealth. They are not just communication. they are creation. What you say builds the world you walk through. If you want more money, you must start speaking as someone who is already supplied. You must declare wealth as your truth even when it seems far away, because in divine law, what you declare with conviction eventually appears with evidence. Florence Scovel Shinn did not teach wishful thinking. She taught spiritual authority, and that authority lives in your tongue. So speak as one who is already blessed. Speak as one who commands divine substance. Speak as one who knows the law works, because it does. The moment your words change, your world changes. That's not theory. That's law.